Well, howdy. Welcome once again to the Double M Farm. Been a while since we've done anything, and so I wanted to give a quick update. Oh my goodness, more minutes than I thought. I was trying to keep this short, and I'm getting up there pretty good on minutes, so I'll try to edit it down some, but I know you don't like them very long. Haven't been digging. It's been over a month since I've even cranked the backhoe. Just had so many projects going that I had to pull off of the pond project to get some other things done on the farm. A lot of pasture mowing and plus some little family problems had to take care of. So it was a break for Little Red. But the last video, I think it was part 13 if I'm remembering correctly, I was digging way over there right beside Dumpy. So if you watched part 13, that's where I was and had dug up to that point. And now you see I'm all the way over to here, and actually right here, this is where the spillway will be built. So I'm just about up to the spillway here. I'm going at a little bit of an angle. You can see that ditch there with water in it. That's where the dam, I'm standing on the dam on this side of where the spillway will be. And all of this dirt is going to be worked over this way into that ditch and beyond that ditch and building up a high mound all the way up to those trees, to that pine tree back there. That'll be the dam. So I really don't have much more to do from right there to right there, kind of in the shape of a pie. And that's all that's left to have phase one of the pond done. Would have been done a long time ago if I could have just stuck to it, but I had to keep pulling off and getting other projects done. And you'll notice by the water level that I'm starting to angle up towards the dam so that the water pressure will be towards the deeper end down that way next to the springs. And so I'm just, as you can see, I'm not digging. I'm digging that right at the level with the top of the water that's in there now. Sort of using the water as my level gauge. I don't have any kind of a level shot on this thing. Just eyeballing it. But I'll be digging that on out. All of this dirt, won't have to haul it off with Dumpy. I'll just pour it, build it up here, just keep moving it over and building the dam up, just like I did where I'm standing. So that's where we are, and that's what we're doing. Let's see if I can get over here real quick. I may edit some of this out. If you saw me, if I didn't edit it out, if you saw me jump off of Red and holler and run, it's because one of the goats was about to knock the camera into the pond. I had the camera sitting on that stump right there, and one of the goats walked up and started sniffing it. And I was afraid she was going to knock it into the pond. Here's Dumpy. Hi, Dumpy. Say hi, Dumpy. There. Did have one problem. The trencher sat down for, like say, a month. This is the end of July, and I think it was middle of June, the last video. So it's been over a month. And I came out here yesterday to start digging and dug about 3 scoops and started spraying hydraulic fluid right here. Just started spraying out. And so I had to shut her down and rebuild this cylinder with the gaskets that come with it. When you buy one of these machines, they send you a whole bag full of extra O-rings and gaskets. And this, I call it a dust cap. It's basically just a rubber cap that fits in here that sweeps the cylinder to sweep the dirt, keep it from getting inside. And it was bulging out. And there's an O-ring inside of this sleeve that had to be replaced. It's one of the simplest hydraulic cylinders I've ever rebuilt. It was real easy to do. And a couple of tips, if you haven't done one, you can see I scraped the paint off with the wrench. Couldn't help it, I'll have to repaint it. But take a pipe wrench and break this loose, or if you have the wrench that fits in the holes, that's even better. Forget what you call those. Break this loose before you take it loose from here, because you don't want to have to put this thing in a vise and scratch it all up. You definitely don't want to put that cylinder shaft in a vise and scratch it up. Then you'll never get a seal. So what I did is I broke this loose to where I could turn it by hand before I took it loose from here. And never did take it loose down here. Once I broke this loose, pulled this pin out, stood it up, and I tried to pull this out by hand and couldn't. Then I realized it had a suction on it. So I had to take this hose loose, and of course that meant my hydraulic fluid that was in here drained out, but that's what you have to do. Took it loose, and that relieved the suction. And then I just grabbed this right here and pulled it straight up out, carried it up the top of the hill to the workshop. And there's a big, and there is a big nut on the other end of this shaft that you'll have to take off so that all of these will slide off the shaft. And before I carried it up to the shop, once I had pulled it out, I put it back on here to hold it in place so that I could break that big nut loose. And once I got it where I could turn it by hand, just like this, then I took it back off of here again and carried it up to the shop. And the rings were just a piece of cake to put back on, no problem at all. And once I got them back on, then I took hydraulic fluid and just bathed it, just washed it good to make sure I had no sand or contaminants on it. Brought it down here, slid it back in. Once I slid it in, before I screwed this cap back on, I stood it straight up and poured hydraulic fluid in here because obviously I had lost hydraulic fluid. So I obviously put this back on. Slide it in first so that you can relieve pressure or you won't be able to push it in. Slid it in, then I put this hose back on, then I poured it full of fluid up to about here, and then I tightened the cap down. And when I cranked it up, there was ever so slight hesitation as it worked the last little bit of air out, and then it started working and hasn't missed a beat since. So that was yesterday. I dug after I did that, and then I'm back out here this morning digging. So if you have a leak on a hydraulic cylinder, don't fret. It is really not a hard cylinder to rebuild at all. So that's an update, and my goodness, I'm almost at 20 minutes. I'll edit some of this down so you don't have to sit for a long time. But the pond is really taking shape. I am extremely pleased with it. This is the other side of that pie I was talking about. So I'll be digging in the dam. A lot of that dirt I will throw over the ditch and build up here. And then the last dirt that I dig will actually go in the ditch and build up and line up with the dam over there. And then the gap in the middle is where I'll build the spillway to start backing the water up. And we have had a ton of rain. I went a long time. I couldn't dig because it was just rain and I was just bogging in the mud. But we finally gotten it dried out. You can see the still water sitting. Finally gotten it dried out enough. But you can look right here. There's water coming out of the ground here, running into the pond, and of course the other springs you've seen before. But that's where we are. I knew it had been a long time, so I wanted to give you a quick update on the farm pond build with the Harbor Freight trencher and the Japanese mini truck. I finally got enough dry that I can back in there and actually load Dumpy. I'll try to get some of that on video if I can. It's kind of hard when you're doing all this by yourself, but I'll try. All right, well, I appreciate you visiting us here on the Double M Farm, and I'll talk to you again real soon.